The business world now. Today we're going to focus on what branding is and how to create a successful brand. To give us some insight on the subject, we're joined by executive professional Ozan Batigun. Thank you very much for joining us, Ozan.
Hi, Bardavid. Thank you.
Now, let's begin by giving a definition of what a brand is. Tell us what defines a brand.
Well, brand is something that you have a very, very strong product and you create great company effort, campaigns and everything on it. Brand means inspiration for the company, but brand means also the necessities and needs of the customer and of the end user. So brand is something that we're very, very fond of and we like to use in our daily environment very much.
So it's what we have all around us on a daily basis.
Yes.
Okay, so what creates a brand though? Is it, what creates a strong brand maybe?
Well, actually you have to have a good product. No market campaign and can invent a brand if it's a mediocre product. First of all, you have to have a strong product. For example, there are some of the drinks, you know, the famous Coca-Cola story. They are the #1 brand in world history now, and according to Interbrand survey in 2010, they are the best brand of the year. But if you just examine Coca-Cola example, they have Nestea, they have Burn, they have Sprite, and they have many various kinds of products. So if you have a good product, then you have a good portfolio also. That's something very important. But on the other hand, brand is something that we perceive very easily. For example, let's take the example of Facebook. You know, it was a platform that was used between Harvard Business School students, but then it became $1 billion brand. And now most of the users are from Turkey. So brand is something that we perceive very much. And on the other hand, if you look at the example of Apple, you know, the legendary fruit Apple, but we perceive it as a high-end art. So brand is something that we have some emotional influence on.
Yeah, it seems like when we're talking about an apple, you can't even think of the fruit anymore. You have to think of the brand. It's crazy.
Yes, and there's one crucial thing. For example, you may use your laptop in any case, but the most serious thing is that when you lose your laptop, you feel sorry for your data. And the laptop itself in the secondary value. But if you lose your MacBook Air or iPad, so then you feel sorry for your product also. So if you make an emotional connection between you and the product, between consumer and the product, then that's what the brand is.
So emotions are very critical there.
Yes.
But how do they create these emotions? How do we get so attached to these brands?
Well, that's the role of marketing and that's the key of marketing. And how can I say, they try to create many things, but in Turkey, when we just look at the companies more, we are just lacking something. And for example, if you want to create an excellent brand, you have to make some plans. In Turkey, most of the companies make strategic plans, tactical plans, sales and marketing plans for the next 5 years, for the next 10 years. But we see that most of them forget to make brand plans. So that's a very key issue. And on the other hand, we must separate strategic marketing from daily based operational marketing. In my view, most of the companies should have 2 different marketing departments. One of them should be taking care of the daily sales activities and it should be operational marketing. But there may be some other people that just start to create value for the company for the long-term strategic goals, and that's what branding is. If you just hire a brand manager, a marketing manager, they're just mid-level positions and those people will leave your company in 5 years' time if they don't promote. So you cannot expect them to create your branding strategy knowing their situation. That's a very important key issue, and as Turkish markets, we must focus on this very well.
Yeah, I think one of the problems I see in Turkey is that we're very short-term people.
Yes.
Right?
Daily-based living.
Daily-based people, yeah. And in different countries, where would you give an example where you can see the best long-term thinking people,
yes.
Right?
On the other hand, branding is very, very different. For example, companies are very, very clever nowadays because, for example, let's take off corporate brands. Let's think of HSBC and Citibank. Being a great corporate brand is something very, very important because corporate brands means sustainability and confidence for the consumer. For example, they buy many local banks, but in a year or two, we just forget the names of the local banks that they buy. And then they came with a slogan saying that they are world's local bank. So that's a very important issue, and they have hundreds of products in their portfolio, but the consumers do not take care of the hundreds of products. They take care of the sustainability and stability of the HSBC or Citibank. That's what is very important. And on the other hand, but there's a very thin line during this period, because some companies are very afraid of the thing that corporate brands may ruin their portfolio during the trouble of one personal item. For example, Siemens in the world just test their products under different names in emerging markets, and if they just succeed and if the product is promising, then they take it to the portfolio of the Siemens and launch it as a Siemens product. So that's a very key issue. So you must be very strict on when you're just making a corporate branding.
That is so smart to try it out with a different name, because I mean, if you try it out as your own name and you fail, it kind of gives harm to your own brand. But if you try it out, very, very smart. If I ever have like a branding company, I'm going to do that. Start it with something else.
And branding is just all of perception, because in Turkey, when companies are going to create a product or launch a product, they just think of themselves, how our company should do such a thing. But the thing that they should take care of is that what the consumer needs, what the consumer wants. So there's a very, how can I say, big gap in that area. And when companies are just developing their products, the people who are working in the companies or have so great egos that they want the product in the shape that they want it to be. But it should be changing. It should be according to the consumer needs.
Right.
That's what Dell did in all over the world. And so that's what they are very successful. They have been selling $30 million in 1984, but now they're about 20 million company. And on the other hand, you should change the company's vision according to the market potential and dynamics. For example, Samsung was founded in 1938, but did you know it was just an exporting company of grocery and fish?
Grocery and fish,
Yes,
Samsung, you're kidding.
Samsung was just exporting grocery and fish. But then, about 1984, they changed all of their vision, and now they're the digital world leader. And they're about a 20 billion company worldwide.
That's amazing.
Yes, that's amazing. But the thing is that it's not very easy to be they're the 19th biggest brand of the world, but they came here by spending too much. So if you want to make branding, then you should think that you should spend too much also.
And is it also still important to be the first in what you're doing?
Of course. The name of the game is being the first. But for example, think of McDonald's, think of Michelin, think of DuPont. There are many, many brands. They may not be the best in their area, but they were the first. For example, according to a survey of Forbes in 2010, about 80% of the companies that just image what their competitors do just bankrupt in 3 years' time. But the ones that have differentiated themselves have been successful in 350%. So that's a very, very key situation. For example, in one of the lectures of, the famous Bill Gates, one of the students asked him, what can we do to be as rich as you? And the answer was very, very astonishing from Bill Gates. He said, whatever you do, don't do what I do. Because all the money in that business has already been earned by me in what I do. So please do something different. So that's the key issue. In my area, it's different. For example, in pharma sector, if you just launch a product with very little side effects, with a powerful efficacy, you may be the fifth, but you may be the market leader. But in other markets, whatever you do, you should be the first.
So it could be a key to have very, very good product, but if you're the first in it, you have a much, much bigger chance.
And the perception is important. For example, there is a very strange survey by Garrison Group. It's done in February 2011. And they say that who want to use BlackBerry and who want to use iPhone 4. And they just group the people according to this habit. And they stigmatize BlackBerry users as people who are workaholic, who are very keen to networking, and who like to just take control of everything.
Whoa.
And but the iPhone 4 users are classified as people who have high self-confidence than they should have and who are very creative. But there are many surveys like this. For example, they just group the people.
Okay, I'm gonna have to stop you there and ask you: are you a BlackBerry user or an iPhone user?
Well, my company phone is BlackBerry, but my personal phone is iPhone 4.
You have both.
So I have both of them.
That's
After
good
the
balance.
survey,
Okay.
I bought both of them.
That's good.
Yeah. And on the other hand, for example, they just classify the people according to the time they sleep or the time they get up. For example, in the United States, companies, when they want to hire people, for example, they may prefer early birds. For example, if they want to have a stable job, if they want to harmonize the people who enter the company, but if they want creative people who are more or less unpredictable, then they choose the people who get up very late. So it's a very interesting thing in Turkey.
So unpredictable and late, I mean, that might be negative, but it's also the ones who are spontaneous and creative,
Yes,
right? Yes,
yes.
okay. Yeah, I'm a late sleeper, so.
We don't know the exact scientific explanation, but there will be more explanations in future.
Okay. Well, of course, for these brands, it's also important to have customer loyalty. I mean, it's not only about having them buy your brand once, but it's having to come back all the time. How do you create loyalty?
Well, actually, a good brand has two very important issues. One of them is that you should have an excellent product, a unique product. And the second one is that not only you have a good product, but you also have a good after-sales service. The customer has two big stages in its purchase. One of them is the product itself, and the second one is that when the customer experiences the product in the office, in home, or in his daily life. So, if you want to win the customer's loyalty, if you want to have continuous purchases, you must just be very good in these two stages. And apart from this, there is word of mouth marketing, the guerrilla marketing. If people want to buy something, they just ask their relatives, they just ask their friends. And as people, or as Turkish people we are keen to talk on things that we are not very fond of, we don't like. If we just find something amazing, we say, okay, it's good, but if you don't like it, we can talk for hours.
Hours, right?
So companies must be very, very crucial when they're just attacking their after-sales services, their customer loyalties.
Yeah, I think the customer service shows, if you have good customer service, you feel like they care about you. It's not just about, you know, selling that product and making the money, but it's actually because they
I will
want
just
you to be happy.
interrupt you. You know the Domino's example?
Yeah, give me the
Yeah,
Domino's
yes.
example.
For example, in United States, in one of the Domino's pizza restaurants, the restaurant was going to be out of pizza. And the head of the restaurant just called the associate vice president of Domino's Pizza and said that we are going to be out of pizza and there are customers here. And if we face such a problem, it wouldn't be very good for the reputation of Domino's. The vice president just took the advice, and in an hour he prepared a private jet and sent many pizzas to the Houston. But unfortunately, the jet couldn't be at the airport in early time, and so many of the customers have come to the restaurant and they left the restaurant as there's no pizza. But the employees of that restaurant has been very miserable with that, and just for a month's time they wear black belts and to emphasize their sadness. And this black belt and the approach of the employees has been just spread to all United States, and it's been very, very appreciated by the customers. So it's not only just you create a brand loyalty, it's that you create an employee loyalty also. So it's very important in Turkey, in all over the world. But in order to have such kind of things, you should have good, educated, experienced, qualified, everything, etc.
Yeah, I think that shows the vision of the vice president and the one who is sending the jet, that to show the importance of if we don't get there in time, something bad will happen.
Yes.
Here, I don't know if they would have done the same thing in Turkey.
Well, actually, individually, we see that in many times because service sector is very, very developed in Turkey, and I think Turkish people are very customer oriented, very customer focused, have excellent relation and communication specifications. But we should develop our corporate cultures also. We should develop a unique culture all over Turkey also. On the other hand, there are some very different things. That slogan is very important for marketing also. In Turkey, I have some slogans in my mind, but I want to just give some global examples. For example, we all know the HP slogan, invent, or Apple, think different, Xerox, the document company. So they have very, very unique slogans that we just do not see, but we have in our minds. And for example, there was a very big disaster with Philips. For example, about 10 or 14 years ago, they just launched a new slogan, and it was from sand to chips. They were telling that the chips were made of sand, but they were converting sand into chips. But it has nothing to do with the consumer.
Nothing.
And then they changed it, and they said that Philips invents for you. So what? It was a failure again, and at last they found something new, sense and simplicity. So now we all know sense and simplicity everywhere. So slogan is very important also.
Yeah, I think it's what sticks in your mind. I mean, when you say something like "just do it," for me is one of the things. You know, you can't say the sentence without thinking of Nike anymore.
Of course. And one other very important thing is that in our daily life, for example, we are now in 2010 and everything has changed. We have global companies, we have very big local companies, but in Turkey, it's not always eager to be just a company, just act for earning money, just earning for profit. So you should create some value for the environment. You should create some value for the society also. So now I think it's time for all the companies to be a hybrid company. When I mean hybrid company, I want to mean that the companies should also create value to the environment, to the society, while they are earning profits. And they can do this just by ameliorating their supply chains, just by approaching the projects on greenfield projects. And I think instead of having an image, having a perception of they're cutting the trees, they're just ruining the environment, and companies can serve for the government, serve for the people, serve for the society. That's the new problem. Not also the companies, also the leader of the companies should also serve for the employees also. And I think in our next decade, we will be talking too much about this.
So yeah, I think with what the world is caring about from day to day, we're caring about the environment now. Yeah, that has to kind of be implemented in your vision too. What about how you launch a big project or a brand? Is there a good way to do that that's very effective?
Well, when you launch a good product, for example, you must be thinking of it in from every angle. And it's not easy to launch a product. We see many launches, but we don't see global Turkish brands. For example, according to Interbrand classification, we don't see any Turkish brand in the top 100. The most valuable brand of the world is Coca-Cola, then comes IBM, then comes Apple, then comes Microsoft, Google, and then we see Louis Vuitton even, but we don't see Turkish brands. And so that's why I'm very sorry about it. I think Turkey has to learn marketing, and we have a marketing wizard. It's called United States, and there are many different things that we can learn from them. They launch many companies, they make market researches, but in Turkey, for example, when you want to make a market research, they say it's a big cost. It's a big cost, but market research just gives you the data of the consumer, and the consumer and end user is the person who are buying your product. So that's very important.
Well, do you guess that in the near future we might have some brands that are going a little bit? I think the closest we've seen maybe one of them is Mavi Jeans.
Yes.
A little bit, I guess.
We don't know. We will just look at the Interbrand results and we will interpret it according to it. But there is one brand that I'm very fond of, and it's called Pegasus Airlines. Because the company has been just in the market for about 20 years, I think, and in their first 15 years, they could carry only 15 million customers. But when the company was acquired by Ali Sabancı, in their first year, they were about to carry 26 million. And, people were afraid that if an aircraft can land to the Sabiha Gökçen airport, and he chose the airport first. But then it brought him that all the Pegasus Airlines just take off in the exact time. So Pegasus is a very good example of branding and a very successful brand, I think. But we have such brands also. For example, Ülker, they bought Godiva, they acquired Godiva, and I think they may be a multinational brand. And I think we will see many different brands in future, but I hope we will be more successful. We will more focus on marketing and long-term strategic issues.
So in the near future, it seems we're going in the right direction as Turkey.
We're going, but we don't have the eligible personnel yet. We don't want to, how can I say, specify our organizations. We don't want to create new positions, new jobs. We don't want to assign new headcounts. We don't want to spend more money for people. But if you don't invest in people, then you cannot get know-how. For example, I want to give Disney example, if I'm not just crossing my time. Okay, Disney, we know that they're a film studio, but actually when you see that, they're about a 100-year company, and on the other hand, they're now giving trainings on team building, know-how sharing. So it's not only, we know, Disneyland, Euro Disney, or film companies, or Pixar. It's something that gives education, training, that sells something know-how. So it's a, how can I say, period of accumulation and experience that they share.
Exactly, which is very, very valuable, I think.
Yes, very, very valuable.
Well, thank you for all your valuable information that you've given us today.
I thank you.
Thank you for joining us today. And that brings us to the end of our show today. I'm Bardavid. Stay tuned on 6 News.